The Ugly Duckling. It was summer and the sun was shining brightly over the deep canals. A duck had laid her eggs in a nest near the edge of a canal. She sat on her eggs, waiting for them to hatch. And at last, she heard a sound. 3 ducklings hatched out of the 3 eggs, one by one. She counted them and checked the nest. 1 egg, the largest, had not hatched. The duck sat on it. The egg soon hatched, and a large and ugly duckling came out of it. She thought, "This is a big, strange creature, as it does not look like the others." After a few days, they all went down to the canal. One by one, they jumped into the water and swam easily. The ugly grey duckling was also with them. The duck said, "Quack, quack, come with me and I will show you the duckyard." The other ducklings stared at the ugly duckling. They said, "See how ugly that one is! Quack, quack!" And at the same time, one of the other ducklings flew at the ugly duckling and bit its neck. His mother said, "Leave it. It is not doing any harm." An old duck said to the mother duck, "You have fine children. They are all pretty except that one." The mother duck said, "I know that it is not pretty, but it is very good and better in many ways than the others." She stroked the ugly duckling's neck with her beak and settled its feathers gently. It was a bad time for the ugly duckling, as everybody bit, pecked, and teased it. It was ill-treated by others, even by its family. And so it decided to run away. After a while, it reached a desert land where some wild ducks lived. It lived happily with them for 2 days. On the 3rd day, it heard the sound of guns and barking dogs, and saw the ducks and geese falling down. It kept very still as the dogs were running all around. A fierce dog thrust its nose into the duckling's face and ran off. The ugly duckling ran away from there. It reached a little hut. came inside through a hole in the door. This hut belonged to an old lady. This woman had a cat and a hen. They were sleeping and nobody noticed the arrival of the duckling. In the morning, the cat mewed. And the hen cackled. The old lady asked, "What's the matter, my dears?" She was not able to see properly and pretended that the duckling was a fat duck that had strayed away from its path. She said, "If this is not a trick, we might have duck eggs as well as chicken eggs." The duckling lived there for 3 weeks. It was sad. It wanted to swim. The hen scolded it and told it not to be the cause for laughter. The hen said, "You must be mad. Why don't you ask the cat? She is the wisest creature. You can ask her whether she would like to swim or dive to the bottom of the pond." The ugly duckling sobbed and said, "You do not understand me." The hen said, "What do you think? You are wiser than us. You must be grateful for all the pity. Forget about water and swimming and start your work. You must learn to purr and to lay eggs." The duckling said, "I think I will take a chance again and go out into the open world." It escaped and soon found water and swam happily. It dived to the bottom of the lake. The animals it met did not care for it. It said to itself, "This is because I'm so ugly." Autumn came, and the ugly duckling was shivering in the cold. One evening, it saw some beautiful birds in the sky. They had white feathers and long necks. They were swans flying to warmer lands. The weather became colder day by day. And the ugly duckling felt that it was going to die. But after many days, the ugly duckling felt the warmth of the sun. It shook its feathers in the bright sunshine. Now it was feeling strong and so decided to fly. It flew over the water and reached a garden. Three beautiful swans were there, swimming proudly. The duckling was so excited to see them that it started swimming towards them. Then it hung its head in shame and thought, "They will definitely ignore me because I am so ugly." As it hung its head, it saw its reflection in the water, and lo and behold, what did it see? Not a fat, ugly grey bird, but a beautiful white swan. Soon all the other swans were swimming with it and stroking its neck with their beaks, making it feel very happy. It remembered its past days when it was ill-treated by others. Now it was regarded as the most beautiful bird. It thought, "What a wonderful place the world is! I could never think of this much happiness when I was an ugly duckling." Sleeping Beauty. A long time ago, there lived a king and a queen. They were very sad as they had no children of their own. One day, the queen was sitting near a pond in the castle garden. Suddenly, a frog hopped onto a lily flower in front of her and said, "Your wish will be granted. Before a year has passed, a daughter will be born to you. Croak, croak." Her wish was granted, just like the frog said. A little girl was born to the king and queen. They were so happy that they ordered a grand feast to be held to celebrate the event. All their friends, relatives and the 12 fairies of the kingdom were invited. But there were in all 13 fairies in the kingdom. One fairy was not invited. Why? Because the king and queen considered number 13 to be an unlucky number. So the 13th fairy was not at all happy. She was very angry indeed. On the day of the celebration, all the guests had gathered in the king's palace with their gifts. The 12 fairies came with their special gifts for the baby girl. One fairy said, "I grant her good qualities." Another said, "I give her beauty." Another fairy gave her riches, another health, and so on. Now the little princess had all the gifts that every parent desires for his beloved child. Soon 11 fairies had given their gifts. As soon as the 12th fairy was going to give her gift, the hall door flew open, and the 13th fairy came in. She was angry at not being invited to the feast. She wanted to take her revenge. She said, "On her 15th birthday, the princess will prick her finger on a needle and die." Then, in a huff, she left the palace, leaving all present stunned. There was silence all around. Then the 12th fairy, who had not yet given her gift, said, "I cannot undo the 13th fairy's curse, but I can reduce it a little." The princess will not die, but sleep for 100 years. The king and queen ordered for the destruction of all the needles in the kingdom. As time went by, the princess grew to be a beautiful, wise, and friendly young lady. Everyone loved her. On the morning of her 15th birthday, the princess was alone in the castle. She wandered through the unending passages and rooms of the castle. She went upstairs and downstairs. At last, she came to an old tower. After climbing the narrow flight of stairs to reach it, she found its door locked by a rusty key. Turning the key, the princess opened the door. There, she saw an old woman with a spinning wheel. The princess wished her good morning and asked, "What are you doing?" The old woman replied, "I am spinning. Would you like to give it a try? As soon as the princess took hold of the spindle, the needle pricked her finger and she fell into a deep sleep. Almost immediately, everyone in the castle fell asleep, including the king and the queen. Even the courtiers, animals, and birds fell asleep. A thick hedge grew around the castle, and soon not even the flag on the highest tower could be seen. Throughout the land, the story soon spread of a beautiful princess who was asleep in a lost castle, where every living creature lay motionless in deep sleep. Many brave princes came and tried to break the spell, but could not succeed. A 100 years passed, and one day a young prince came to know about the story of the sleeping princess. He was very brave. When this young prince came near the hedge turned into fine flowers and made way for him to pass through. In the courtyard, he found horses and dogs lying fast asleep. He saw the king and queen asleep on their thrones. The prince searched the castle and at last he reached the old tower and opened the door of the little chamber. Where the princess was sleeping. She looked so beautiful that the prince could not stop himself. He kissed her. Lo and behold, as soon as he did so, the princess opened her eyes. At the same time, the king and the queen woke up. Soon all the living creatures in the castle woke up. There were sounds of happy voices all around. It was as if all was well the way it was 100 years ago. The prince and the princess fell in love and soon got married. They lived happily ever after. Little Thumb. Once upon a time there lived a woodcutter and his wife. They had 7 children. They were very poor, and it was hard for them to look after their children. They had a child called Little Thumb, who was the youngest in their family. He was always ill. And his size was no bigger than one's thumb. Once there was a bad famine, and the woodcutter found it difficult to feed his family. One night, he decided that he would leave his children in a forest, and they would somehow have to look after themselves. Little Thumb heard his parents talking. His father gave each of his children a piece of bread for breakfast. Little Thumb had an idea. He thought of throwing small bits of bread along the way. So, he put the bread bits in his pocket. The family went into the forest, and the woodcutter began his work. The children also helped him. When the parents saw that their children were busy, they quietly went away, unseen. They were unhappy at what they had done to their children. When the children came to know that their parents had left them in the dense forest, they began to cry. But Little Thumb did not cry. He knew that he could find the way back to their home with the help of the bits of bread he had thrown along the way. But something bad had happened. The birds had eaten every bit of bread he had thrown. Now all the children were afraid. But Little Thumb had a great idea. He climbed up to the top of a tall tree to see if he could find anything. He saw a light shining far away. He walked with his brothers and sisters towards the light. They arrived at a big house.